Demolition of Babri Masjid and the promise of Rama Rajya.
नो रियल इंडिया के मेरे सभी साथियों और फॉलोअर्स को जय भीम और नमो बुद्धाया. To all my friends and followers, Jai Bhim and Namo Buddhaya. On the occasion of Mahaparinirvana Din, on the death anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, December 6th, I'm actually hosting an event on that occasion titled Telling Untold Stories. Basically, it's a platform that I'm building to make sure that we, our community, tells our stories. While I am doing that event, something reminded me of another story that I wanted to share with all of you. So I'm going to mostly focus on that today. And the story that is kind of hidden with the December 6th date is, other than the Mahaparinirvana Din when Dr. Ambedkar passed away, is also the demolition of Babri Masjid and also the promise that India can be converted into Ram Janmabhoomi. Ram Janmabhoomi means Ram's birth place. So the promise that is given to the common folk by BJP, the ruling Indian government, Indian party, is the promise of Rama Rajya, which pretty much means the kingdom of Ram. And I wanted to touch upon this topic because I wanted to ask a question directly to our Bahujan and say, should we believe that BJP will build a country that is a Ram Raj, it's a kingdom of Ram or not? And to this effect, I actually want to urge Bahujan to actually believe them. Believe that BJP wants to build a Ram Raj. But the question here is, I am asking Bahujan people is, from all that you know about Ram Raj, what do you think is there for your benefit? बहुजनों के हित के लिए राम राज्य में क्या है? So the first point is believe them, Ram Raj, but then question from your own memory. And for this, I'm not telling you to go dig into Ramayana or whatnot. In fact, I'll recant what I know from just watching Ramayana on TV, the whole big episode that was on Doordarshan, and I think it re-aired recently for COVID, during COVID times, and also movies that I watched in Telugu, my mother tongue, Lavakusha and others, which came about in the late 80s, maybe 90s. So the point here is, what is there in Ramaraj for Bahujan? So let me recant the whole Ramayana for those who don't understand the story. Ramayana starts straight up top with Rama's father, Dashratha, King Dashratha, who has 3 wives but can't have any kids from them. So effectively, he has a like a yagna, like a fire sacrifice thing, which is to beget kids. And the story goes that the priest, the Muni, who does it, comes up with pudding, and there are 2 bowls of pudding, or one bowl of pudding, and Rama's mother eats 1 handful of pudding. We eat with hands, and then the next in line also eats 1 handful of pudding, but they so love the third wife of Dashratha that they both feed them 1 handful of pudding each. Hence, she has 2 kids. So Rama, Bharata, Lakshmana, and Shatrughna are born that way. Then Rama goes about his life, enjoys his childhood and everything, and then he finally wins over Sita, the girl he marries, the woman he marries, in a archery competition. Then the story goes on that Bharata, the second in line in the kids, his mom had at some point saved Dashratha, Rama's father, from impending danger. So so Dashratha gave her 1 wish she could have. So she comes at an opportune time when Rama is about to be coronated and says, I don't want Rama to be coronated. Instead, Bharata, my son, should be coronated. And then Dashratha kind of says that I can't do that. He begs and pleads and everything. And then finally, Bharata's mom, I don't remember the name. It doesn't matter, actually. I'll tell you why it all doesn't matter later on. She agrees to fine, don't coronate my son, but at least send Rama off, like banish him from the kingdom. And then Dasharatha does that for 14 years. Then there's some bargaining going on or whatnot. So he sends him off, banishes him for 14 years. Now, Bharata, though he could be coronated, he's, I guess, a devout follower of his brother. So he doesn't ascend the throne, but he actually puts Rama's slippers on the throne, and he just becomes the deputy king. So that way, his mom's wishes are not fulfilled. Also, Dashratha is now heartbroken that his beloved Rama is gone off to the forest, that he dies in grief. And then Lakshmana, one of the other two brothers who are the from the last queen, he is so devoted to Rama that he abandons his own wife in the kingdom, not abandon. He leaves her in the kingdom, and he follows Rama and Sita like a dutiful brother. I don't know what dutiful about that by actually abandoning his own wife, but that's what it's told. So now I'm going to continue this story because most of you don't know, and hopefully it's entertaining. Uh, Rama now goes off. They're living in a forest, and it so happens that Ravana, another person who actually was at the bachelor competition. It's like bachelor competition, right? One of the bachelorette, because that's what the bachelorette. Ravana was also part of that bachelorette group, and he doesn't win Sita. So somehow or the other, circumstances come to a point where Rama and Lakshmana at some point slight his sister, so he wants to take revenge, and I think he's also butthurt from not actually having won Sita's hand in the Swayamvaram. Uh, that's the competition to claim the bachelorette. That he lifts her up from the soil, from the earth, because he can't touch her. She's so pious or something. So he picks up the whole earth from underneath her when Rama and Lakshmana are pulled away in some chasing a golden deer or something, like a diversion is constructed, and Ravana takes her. Now the whole story after this part is all about how Rama goes after the Ravana and then finally gets Sita back. In that process, he makes a whole army of monkeys, and also to secure this alliance of these monkeys, he unscrupulously murders by hiding behind the trees one of the monkey kings, because there are two monkey kings now and they are in war, and there is a whole different story as to why they are now at war. So now this monkey king who has asked for his allyship is now his servile, and they go kill Ravana, bring Sita back, and then what happens again? Then he actually makes Sita walk through fire to prove that she is pious and that Ravana did not defile her. So her word is not enough for him. So that thing happens. So she goes through the fire and she proves that she's still pious. And then a few months later, she's now pregnant with twins. Actually, I mean, not that she would know back then, but she's now pregnant with twins. And Rama hears to his like from his washerman or somebody that the kingdom still doesn't believe that Sita is pure and pure enough to be the Maharani, the queen or something. So, in order to in order to satisfy these claims and all those things, he actually abandons. Rama tells Lakshmana to take Sita to get some fruit because she's pregnant and she's craving some fruit or whatnot in the forest. So Lakshmana, early in the morning before anybody is up, gets Sita into the chariot, and he alone drives her off, telling her that he's just taking her out to satisfy her craving, get that fruit. And then he finally dumps her in the forest, and then he says, "Yep, this was what my brother ordered to do. I'm sorry. I feel for you. You know how much I love you. You know, I know this is all wrong, but gotta do what I gotta do." And he goes back home. So Sita now finds a little ashram, and she lives with a saint, and there she has these two twins, Lava, Kusha. Rama is none the wiser, and also if you read different versions of Ramayana, you will see that Rama is just having a grand old time. He's having fun with women. He has the little his hot harems that he goes and enjoys, and he's just ruling with no intention of finding where Sita is after years and years, because now his kids, by the point we come to know where his kids are, he knows where his kids are. They're at least 10 to 12 years old. That's what the good book says. So now what happens is Rama wants to expand his territory. So the way kings, at least in this story, the way it is, the kingdom is expanded is by finding the best stallion in the horse stable and just letting it loose, and then the army just walks behind it. So if it were to march into the next kingdom, Kingdom A, they ask the king, you want to fight or you want to secede? If the king secedes, then we move on. Then Kingdom 2, you want to fight or secede? Fight, fine, we'll do a war. If not, fine, you are now our subject. So as this horse is going around all over, it finally reaches this ashram where Sita is with her two kids. And these two kids, by virtue of them also being godlike, because Rama is a god and Sita is a goddess, they have great skills and everything, and they capture this horse and they fight anybody and everybody who comes to claim the horse. And the matter reaches back to Rama, and eventually the kids, along with the horse, the Muni, the saint who is running that ashram, knows what's going on. So he said, well, I guess it's about time for you guys to meet your kids. So even then he doesn't tell Rama, but the Muni takes these kids and they all go back to Ayodhya, where Rama's capital. And that's where finally Rama gets to know that there is Sita still alive. She has these two kids, and in fact, these are the two kids. Makes sense that they were the ones who could actually fight back and actually hold the horse down or actually capture the horse, and they were the ones defeating Rama's armies. And now, obviously, the Muni shares all of this. Ashram, the Muni who runs the ashram, shares all of this. So Rama stops the fight and he asks the kids to come back to Papa or whatnot. But then he also requests Sita to come back to the throne, because now he realizes that that was a mistake and he wants to come. Again, we need to remember that he didn't go approach when they came back, and effectively she brought those two sons. That's when he has a change of heart and he wants her back. But Sita, being a proud, strong woman, she says, nah, this is not gonna be the case anymore. I already walked through fire once. I proved that I was pure, the standard that the rest of the world was wanted. But you couldn't stick by it, and you actually went along with what your washerman or others were accusing me of, and you abandoned me. So I would rather my mother come and take me. And at that point in time, the earth opens up, a chasm comes in, and Sita is taken down into it with like flowers from the heavens falling and singing and music and everything. And there ends the chapter. The reason I tell all of this long story is to ask this question of my Bahujan friends. What in all of this story told you that Rama did anything at all for Bahujan? His dad was infertile, though that's where the story starts. He got a wife by winning at archery or whatnot. Then some Sas Bhi Kabhi Bahuti type thing happened in the palace. Sas Bhi Kabhi Bahuti is a soap opera similar to Days of Our Lives, Rich and the Famous, or Bold and the Beautiful kind of thing. So basically, it's just rich people's drama. So that's exactly what happened. Rich and famous people's drama and the kings and royalties drama. So for Bahujan, what are you thinking over here when all of this happened? So again, an old man was infertile. Kids were begotten. Don't ask how, of his 3 wives. The young prince then won a wife. Then there is some drama. Like I said, Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahuti kind of drama. So Rama got kicked out. Another guy the other son was supposed to be the king now. Down somewhere while these guys are in the forest, some abducting kind of thing happened. And then there's an unscrupulous thing through which Rama finds his Vanar Sena, monkey army, and he goes and wins his wife back. but then he abandons her, and then he has two kids that he doesn't know of. It's like a Jerry Springer show or Maury show that happens on daytime television in America. So where in this do you actually see that he has done anything for Bahujan? So when BJ, and also there's one other point, right? While you don't see anything that Rama has done for the Bahujan, there is definitely something that Rama does, which shows that Rama Rajya will be clearly against Bahujan, especially Shudras. Rama, when approached by a Brahmin, um, executes a Shudra because the Shudra is found reading Vedas and trying to ascend to the heavens, which in those times was only set aside for Brahmins or whoever they do prayers for, which would be Kshatriyas, the warrior class, and the Vaishyas, the tradesmen and the common people, not the Shudras. So, upon complaining by this Brahmin, Rama performs his kingly duties and actually executes Shambhuka because he, as a Shudra, Shambhuka as a Shudra, is reading and uttering Vedas and is trying to ascend to the heavens. So, if anything, if Ramarajya comes, what happens is execution of Shudras. Not exactly in the same way, perhaps, because times have changed, but any options for Shudras to actually develop. And in this case, Shudras, I'm also going to add Avarnas, the untouchables, into this. So Bahujan will have no chance to actually develop, because that's the whole purpose of Ramayana. Rama himself in Ramayana utters that the main purpose that he has taken his avatar as a man, that the god Vishnu has taken an avatar as a man, is to protect Brahmins and cows. That's it. That's the whole purpose. So where in here do you see that Rama Rajya will do good for Bahujan? And that's what I want us to believe. Believe both of them. Believe when BJP says that it will convert India into Ramaraj. Also believe what Ramayana talks as Ramaraj. If you believe both of those, then you'll realize that it's to make Bahujan second class citizens is what Ramarajya will do. So I'm surprised why our Bahujan don't realize this. And also, I didn't do any research to tell you about Ramayana and how and why Bahujan won't get a say in there. This is all just what I learned from Ramayana, and every one of you know this. So it's not like I'm digging into something deep, like a book that has never been figured out the right paragraph and figuring this out. This is just common Indian knowledge. If you are born in a Hindu fold in India, not as a Hindu, but everybody clumped in as a Hindu fold, then you should know this story. Now, nowhere does Ramayana talk anywhere about Rama doing anything for the benefit of the people. Now, you might say maybe they just forgot to write this or whatnot. But I bet that if I were to ask all of you about Ashoka, Samrat Ashoka, who was a Buddhist emperor and a real person and historical figure, you would very little tell about who his father was, whether he was begotten, whether he was infertile or not, who Ashoka married or not, how many wives he had. He had more than one, by the way, and all those things. But what you all will tell me if I ask about Ashoka Ashoka Rajya, Ashoka Samrat's ruling would be that he laid long highways for commerce. And I know this is the next one is you all know because you all make fun of it and try to be smarter. Like when I say, and during Ashoka's period, he planted trees, because you all get smart alecky on this and say, no, he didn't plant any trees. And then say, oh, he planted saplings. Fine, whatever. But see here, Ashoka did lay highways. He laid saplings so that they could grow into trees and give shade to these people. He had medical facilities built, like hospitals built, not for just for humans, but also for animals. The first ever in the world that there were veterinary medical places. He had people on welfare. He had farmers on welfare. He would give them plows and oxen and everything to help them succeed. Not only that, when it comes to tribals, he made sure that if you look at his edicts that are there on the stupas that are there, they clearly, and the pillars, it clearly says that when interacting with these tribal people who are not very wary of the worldly, they're not street smart because they have been isolated from away from the cities. When merchants and army people interact with these tribals, they have to really be fair to them, not try to cheat them of their lands or of their holdings that they have, which is exactly the opposite of what's happening right now. Any tribal area which has good mineral quantity or good water resources are all being taken away by the government and giving away to corporations in the name, and these tribals who oppose are kind of being killed in the name of Naxalism and everything. So you have to see that in Ashoka's period, he actually took care of the tribals. And also during Buddhist period, after Ashoka, through Ashoka and after Ashoka, population flourished. And the reason population flourishes is because there is good amounts of food available, less wars, better health, the medical facilities and everything. So if anything, Bahujan people should be looking up to a party which says that they're gonna bring back India and make it Ashoka Rajya, like Ashoka's kingdom. You should go after a party, or you should go behind a party which promises the benefits, the livelihood, and the kind of kingdom that Ashoka built, not Rama built. So that's the reason I also bring all this up, is because December 6th, on the same Mahaparinirvana din is when Babri Masjid was actually taken down, and the conflict between Hindus and Muslims was created. An artificial conflict was created, and Hindu, or at least the Bahujan, are given or encouraged to pick up Rama as their god, and the promise of Rama Rajya, the kingdom of Rama, as the promised land. And I want to share that Ramayana is a fictional story, and even in a fictional story, no promise of good life, health, benefits, or treatment of equality has been shown for Bahujan. So to want such a kingdom again, and to actually support a party that says that it will bring such a kingdom back to on earth, on India, is kind of foolish if Bahujans are eating up that narrative. Instead, we should form a party which promises Ashoka's kingdom. Ashoka Samrat should be the benchmark of a kingdom in which we want to live, or a kind of democracy that we want to live. Again, I bring all of that up in the context of the event that I'm doing on the 5th here, 6th back in India. So Mahaparinirvana Din is on the 6th. It's a featured script read under the event, telling untold stories. So I thought this story was something that I had to share today. Hope you like it. Let me know what you think of it. But again, भरोसा करो, जब बीजेपी बोल रहा है कि वो राम राज्य लाएगा, उन पे भरोसा करो, बट ये भी जानो कि राम राज्य क्या है, और ये जानो कि राम राज्य में बहुजनों का हित नहीं है. Thanks for listening to me. Jai Bhim. Namo Buddhaya.